Assalamu alaikum students. This is Shazia Rahman and I welcome you to the Green Valley Digital Classics. Dear students, today we will discuss about the assessment of personality. Assessment of personality means the measurement or appraisal of personality, and the methods which are used for the assessment of personality are classified into subjective methods, objective methods, and projective methods. Projective techniques of personality assessment. Projective techniques are the most popular and prevalent method of personality evaluation. These techniques originated in a clinical setting and are considered as the indirect measure of personality. Projective techniques are based on the principle of attribution or projection. It means to act or see an object in the light of one's own personality. Projective techniques are based on the projective hypothesis, and these techniques are derived from Freud's theory of personality. According to Freud, projection means externalizing of conflicts or other internal conditions that had given rise to conscious pain and anxiety. Projective techniques of personality evoke responses from the unconscious, and these techniques provide an opportunity to delve into the depth of unconscious build of an individual's personality. According to it, the quality of personality is much affected by the unconscious motives and emotions. Projective techniques try to assess the total personality, and it avoids the fragmentation of human personality. In these techniques, relatively indefinite and unstructured stimuli like vague pictures, inkblots, incomplete sentences, etc. are provided to the subject, and he or she is asked to structure them in any way he or she likes. In doing so, he unconsciously projects his own desires, hopes, fears, repressed wishes, etc. and thus he does not only reveal his inner or private world, but gives proper clue for an estimate of his total personality. Projective tests are standardized sample of behavior, which is not stimulus bound. The essence of projective techniques can be briefly described as: it is to examine the personal production of a subject and to interpret it for the light it may throw on his personality. So, we can say that projective technique is the automatic stabilizer in which painful ego characteristics are recognized as not belonging to ourselves. Hence, they are disowned and attached to other persons, thus permitting the individual to escape tension. In addition to this, projective tests make it especially difficult for the subject to skew their answers in a particular direction, as they sometimes attempt to do with other types of assessments. Now, we will discuss the characteristics of projective techniques. The first characteristic feature of projective tests is that it consists of ambiguous material. Projective tests often use ambiguous material to which the subject must respond freely. Ambiguous material means that Every subject can interpret the test stimuli in his own way. It is because of the ambiguity of the material that subjects will project their own needs, feelings, and conflicts into the test situation. Projective techniques evoke responses from unconscious. Projective tests are based on the implicit assumption that the test stimuli evoke responses from unconscious of the subject. The subject projects his inner feelings in the test situation. Multidimensionality of responses. The dimensions in which the subject can respond are various, as physical, intellectual, social, and emotional. It is possible for the subject to make a great variety of responses to the test task. Freedom to the response. The projective tests provide full freedom to the subject to respond to the test stimuli. He is not restricted as regards the nature of responses. Holistic approach. It means that projective tests attempt to study the totality of behavior. They do not explore the molecular behavior of the individual. They emphasize the molar approach to understand personality. Answers are not right or wrong. In projective tests, the responses of the subject are not scored or evaluated as right or wrong. They are evaluated qualitatively. These are some characteristic features of projective techniques. The important projective tests are Rorschach Inkblot test, thematic apperception test, children's apperception test, sentence completion test, word association test, psychodrama, social drama, drama man test, etc., etc. It is not possible to describe all the projective tests here. We will select only one most important projective test for detailed discussion, that is the Rorschach Inkblot test. Rorschach Inkblot test is one of the most popular and widely used projective test of personality assessment. This test was developed by the Swiss psychiatrist Hermann Rorschach in 1921. The test consists of 10 cards. Rorschach conducted research on hundreds of inkblots and finally selected 10 inkblots for the test. The test material consists of 10 bilaterally symmetrical inkblots on 10 separate cards of 11 into 9 inches. 5 of the inkblots are black and grey, and some are red, black and grey, and others are multicolored. The test inkblots are completely unstructured. The shape of the blots does not have any specific meaning. Now we will discuss the administration of the test. Before administration of the test cards, perfect rapport is established with the subject. The purpose of the test is not disclosed to the subject. The subject is asked to sit comfortably in a chair free from external distractions. The cards are presented one by one, and the subject is asked to look at the inkblot and to say everything that the inkblot looks like or resembles. After the completion of the responses on the cards, an inquiry session is held with the subject, such as, what might this be? Or what does this remind you of? After writing down as many as answers as the subject cares to give for each blot, the tester goes back through the set, asking the subject for more details, including what it was about blot that determined the subject to respond. The first phase of the test is called the free association phase, and the second phase is called as the inquiry phase. During the test, the behavior of the subject is observed and recorded. This was all about the administration of the Rorschach test. Now we will discuss the scoring of the test. The subject's responses may be scored in terms of three categories. The first is location. The second is determinants. And the third is content. First of all, we will discuss the location. Location refers to the particular part of the blot which an individual included in his responses. It is seen whether an individual is making his response on the basis of whole of the blot or on the basis of its part only. The second component is determinant. Determinant is the particular aspect of the blot which directs the perceptual activity or particular characteristics which helped the subject in deciding his manner of perception. The main determinants are color, movement, form, and shading. The last component is content. Content refers to all what an individual looks into a figure. Printed on the card are noted such as a figure of a person, animal, or a natural object or sceneries. The last component of the Rorschach test is interpretation. To score and interpret Rorschach test is a complicated task which cannot be accomplished without special training. It is for these reasons that several elaborate scoring systems have been devised that take all three categories into consideration. But because these systems have not proved to have much predictive value, most psychologists base their interpretations on an impressionistic evaluation of the response, recorded as well as the subject's general reaction to the test situation. For example, is the individual defensive, open, competitive, cooperative, and so on. So, this was all about Rorschach Inkblot test. Hope you understand it very well. Thank you. Have a nice day.